take it away.
All right, so I am here with Johnson, who is the co-founder of Greenlight. So to get us started, do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about what Greenlight is and how you help parents teach kids about finances?
Sure. Are we good on the mic? Are you guys okay to hear? I can't see anything, so sort of. Louder. I could yell, but you don't want that. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's really fun to be here. Hopefully, most people in Atlanta have heard of Greenlight. We started the company 7 years ago. Feels like a decade or two. We've been in market for 5 years. We really started focused on helping parents give their kids money. Like, how do you just solve the problem of kids need money for going to the movies or traveling sports teams? We launched in 2017 with the first product, which is a debit card that parents instantly send their kids money and control where they can use the card, but very quickly found that parents were describing the product differently than we were. They were saying, Greenlight is how I teach my kids about money. And you start to realize it's very different than just a debit card with instant controls. And so Tim and I really started talking about how do you teach your kids about money and spending time with parents. Like, there you go. Okay, bye. So in the very beginning, we saw with parents the opportunity to build kind of a family finance full subscription service that its mission is to help parents teach their kids about money, but it's across every area of personal finance. So it's spending with a debit card with controls, savings and savings goals, and we've got amazing outcomes and educational research on the impact of a child setting a goal in the app. Just set a savings goal and they save so much more money when they have a goal. Weird. Now we have giving where kids can learn to donate to charity and nonprofit. And last year we launched Greenlight Invest, which is a real brokerage account that kids can do their own research. There's learn mode for quote screens, buy ETFs or fractional shares of stocks, and parents have to approve everything. So it's really become kind of this family banking, family finance product with 5 million customers. So we're pretty happy.
So I have a question. I'm actually really interested in your answer because I have 2 little kids at home. They're 3 and 1. So what is the best time do you think to start teaching your kids about money?
Yeah, kids have more time than any of us. And especially when you're talking about investing in long term, it's never too early to start. Of course, I'm supposed to say that. The debit card, obviously, if that's what you need, there's a sweet spot of that. It's usually between 8 years old and 12 years old when they kind of need to start being on their own. But when it's chores and allowances and savings, we see that with much younger kids, down to 4 and 5. And we'll have products coming for you soon too.
Get my 1-year-old started. So what about money has become such an intangible thing, especially you can pay with your phone, with your watch, with debit cards. People don't really carry cash, especially the millennial generation that's having kids right now. They don't carry cash anymore. So how do you teach your kids about that when it's so intangible? It's not something they can see and feel.
Yeah, well, turns out kids are smarter than we give them credit for, and they're very good at understanding their apps and their scores and their points and their badges. And so we talk about the first product, just a debit card with a balance. Kid swipes a card, the balance goes down. That is the core of financial literacy. I just did something and now I have less of something. And I traded that for my Pokemon cards in my kid's case. That was the purchase of choice for the first use. But yeah, it's all of these concepts are big and scary if you're not familiar with them. But when it comes down to it, it's just about exposing and allowing the kids to learn by doing. And they figure it out pretty quickly. Also triggering conversations, right? Because I remember the story that I still love. It's my favorite Greenlight story of my now 14-year-old. So I guess he was 8 years old when he first used his card, and he was checking out at Target buying Pokemon cards, and he swiped the card and it said debit or credit. And I was like, just hurry up, there's people in line. Just hit debit, put in your PIN, let's go. And he's 8 years old. So to him, that's just we're just getting through our day. But then it was hours later in the car, he was just staring out the window in the rain. It was Atlanta traffic, so we had a lot of time to get the 2 miles to our house. And he said, Dad, what's the difference in a debit card and a credit card? And I was like, oh, well, this is when you have the money. We get into this whole thing, which leads into corporate finance and venture capital and everything else. I probably took it too far. But like, when are you going to have that conversation with an 8-year-old about debit cards or credit cards other than when they get to use a product and then it just like triggers these conversations?
Yeah, that's really neat. Like I was telling you earlier, my kid, we're still getting through the basics. She's still confusing money with batteries. All she knows is both of them get her toys. So we'll get to those conversations soon enough. But what about the why behind everything? Why is it important that kids are learning this at an early age? Why do we need to start them off young?
It's really a powerful conversation that we have about like, what is the opportunity we have to kind of make our dent in the universe. And when you think about how many societal problems we can affect if we have an entire generation of kids with a solid like personal finance foundation, right? Just knowing how to save money for rainy days or understanding the value of investing over the long term can literally change lives. Like that's the thing that people ask Tim and I, like, what do you guys like hope to accomplish, or what are you most excited about? And it's really like, we already have kids who were 10 years old when we launched who are now 17, right? And that's a big leap. They've kind of grown up with Greenlight. Now just fast forward another 10 years or 20 years. And I just like get chills thinking about the opportunity to meet a kid who says, hey, I started investing in Greenlight when I was 8 years old. And this was, helped me buy a house or whatever we can do. So I think the impact on society and so many other issues that start with personal finance is very, very exciting.
When you look at that time, the past 7 years, y'all have really grown up as a company during that time. You went from nothing to last year you had a commercial at the Super Bowl. So it's tell me a little bit about that journey and what kind of growth you've had and what that's been like.
I don't know how to answer that question. We had interns kick off yesterday. We had lunch and learn with our summer class of interns, which is really great, by the way, to be back in the office and be able to do interns. And they asked the same question, like, what's it like, going from zero to this? And I remember Dan and Ben at MailChimp being asked this question a lot, like, how great is it to go from zero to $12 billion exit? And it never feels different. You just show up every day and you do your best. But yes, we are very, very happy. We've got over 5 million customers, well over 100 million in revenue. We are almost 500 on the team now, so a lot of employees. It's really just amazing, inspiring team to work with. And yeah, great partnerships with Chase and Amazon, Morgan Stanley, lots more coming. So it's really fun to see that it's working. And now the opportunity is to really take it to the next level and build more and more products for these families that I think we've established some trust with consumers with our brand, and now we kind of take that and we do even more for them.
You mentioned that you'd started off as one thing, and that's kind of just like developed over the years. You started investing. You started. I think you just launched, or you're about to launch a debit card for families.
The Family Cash Card is our first credit card for parents. To be very clear, it is not a credit card for kids. We are there's a massive wait list for it, so we're very excited so far. Our friends at FNBO are here who are partnering with us to launch this card. It is a 3% cashback card, unlimited. If you spend more than $4,000 a month, just make sure you go sign up for this card. 3%, there's no cap, there's no categories, straight up. The reason we're excited about that is, not only does our mission allow us to build products that are kind of right down the strike zone of like, how do we help families? But our business model is the same way. Like, it's $5 a month to be a Greenlight customer, and then we just give you all the economics. We don't need to optimize every single product P&L kind of like a bank does, because we just want to add value to the subscription fee. That's how we think about the business. So every product that we launch, how much of the economics can we give right back to the families? And so obviously, I don't know if you guys have heard, there's this inflation thing going on. So 3% cash back on your credit card is a pretty big deal. Consumers are really responding well to it. Also, we believe in removing friction from things. So one of the inefficiencies that drives me crazy, and I love my Amex, but I have to go in there and figure out what to do with my points or my rewards or whatever. Like, nothing is automatic about rewards on very many cards. And so with the 3% Family Cash Card, you can actually set the cash back to automatically invest in ETFs or index funds or automatically be put in your bank account. Just automatic. So we love the word automatic. That's like a magic word for us. And so the core of the reason we launched it was really talking about college savings. So we found really alarming stats. I don't think anybody will be surprised that, and I'm probably going to get it wrong, but 70 or 80% of parents really are nervous about paying for college of all kids' ages, from 0 to 18. They really are not sure they've saved enough. Half of parents have 0 saved for their kids' college. And so one of the things we like to do is, how do we build products that don't require you to change your behavior in crazy ways or high friction, but are good for you and your family? And a cashback card where the money is set aside for long-term savings for your kids, we believe is in the best interest of families. That's just our belief. People may disagree with us. And yes, it's a very flexible account, so you don't have to use it for college, but that's what it's designed for. And we will do lots in the product to encourage you to use this as an investment account for your kids' college.
So will it put it like in a separate college fund kind of thing?
That's right.
Can they control like how they're investing in?
Of course, yes, yeah.
That's really cool. How do y'all go about the investment part of your plan? Do you have investors on your team that are looking at the best plans for each family, or?
We get asked that a lot because people think we might be building a robo or something for kids. We are not building a robo for kids. The invest product with Greenlight is really designed to be like the learning invest account. So it's not where you're going to go put your kids' trust fund or all their money and let them go figure out how to invest it. This is where you're going to give them a few $100 or a few $1,000 and learn. And it's an okay place to lose a little money. I think a lot of kids are learning that, as are we right now, that markets don't always go up. So I think it's great. Kids are seeing that. But yeah, so the kids can make trades. $1 is the minimum investment. They can watch really cool little videos on what is diversification, what is an ETF, what is a market cap, like explaining these concepts. And by the way, we see a lot of parents engaging with those same videos while their kids are learning. Parents are sneaky learning also. And but then the cool thing is parents have to approve every trade. So I have had so many parents tell me they thought Robinhood was going to be the way. They like lied about their kid's age, or they used their own birthday. They open a Robinhood account and all the money's gone. They have no idea what happened to it. And so what we love and what I love is parent has to approve the trade. Perfect example was GameStop. My now 16-year-old, when he was, I guess, 14, lives on Reddit. He was all about GameStop. He was like putting in trades constantly. I was decline, but I made him write down the price of GameStop stock every time I declined to trade. I said, "You're going to thank me later." And yes, he does now. So it's pretty awesome.
That's awesome. What about, you mentioned the economy right now and inflation. I think gas prices are an average of more than $5 a gallon. A lot of families are like really struggling with that right now. And what is your financial advice for them when they're going through this?
So we're not in the business of giving financial advice to families or adults. Let's be clear on that. Our advice and where we spend our time is, how do you talk to your kids about these things? Okay. And so the best advice, and there's a lot, we're actually putting out a lot of social content and also in-app content now on how do you talk to your kids about inflation. And we try to give parents very easy to understand, bite-sized little tidbits that you can like trigger conversations with your kids. Because again, this whole thing is about triggering conversations in the house and equipping parents with the knowledge to be able to do that. And so I think I'll just speak personally with my own kids. I am encouraging them, as painful as it is, to go look at their investments in Greenlight to see what they look like so they understand what it feels like to be in a down market, and to encourage them to think for the long term. And like, we're not trying to time markets. Our family, we're just long-term investors. And it's okay. If you still think the company is good, you don't do a thing. You haven't lost money until you sold it. So that's my personal family, but you don't need a personal finance advice from me otherwise.
What about, what's next for y'all? What plans do you have for future growth?
Oh, so much cool stuff I wish I could talk about. But what I can't, so there's one thing that's really exciting called,
I was going to say, you got to be able to say something.
Public beta. We've got a couple of things. So this is in public beta, so I can talk about it. You may have to Google something and go do a little bit of snooping to find it. But it's called Greenlight Family Trivia. It's Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern. And it may be a little bumpy, so if you go test it, it's still in beta. Just remember it's in beta. But it's a live trivia. It's like 15 minutes long. There's several $1,000s in cash prizes. So it's real money for winners. You don't even have to be a Greenlight customer to play this, by the way, or you won't. You may still today, but I don't think you do. And it's like really fun trivia that you do with your kids. It's really hard, by the way. My teenagers are really pissed when they try to do it because they say it's too hard and they can't win anything. But like it's just a really fun family activity. And it's like pop culture meets financial literacy, kind of really fun combination of questions. Sunday night at 8 seems like it's a magic time for families. So you can look for that to get bigger and bigger. It's still a little quiet, but that's getting much bigger. And then of course the family cash card, still in wait list, big wait list. So later in the, soon it will launch.
I was gonna say, do you have a date on that? Or?
I don't know if we have a public date on that or not. I don't know if anybody's here. FNBO, you can ask FNBO, they're here.
So what is your, as far as parents go, do you know what your age demographics are for like what age of parents are you getting that are interested in this card?
It is all parents. It's a little surprising. Even parents of college students are using Greenlight pretty heavily, just because it's a really easy way to send money to school and kind of put some controls around it. And kids probably in college have some other product. The core is obviously 8 to 18. That's the core demographic of the kids' ages, parents or whatever. It's all about the kids, what they need. But we have so much demand from the younger parents, just so much for the under 8. And we're trying to think, how do we better improve the product for those parents and those kids? Because it's really magic when you get chores working in your house to motivate kids. In our house, it's all about fewer fights with the kids. And it's like if you are asked to take out the trash, this is our rule. If you're asked to take out the trash or set the table or whatever, and you grumble or you complain or you say, then you lose your allowance for the whole week. So one complaint at a chore loses your allowance, and that is like a godsend for us. So it's pretty powerful.
I'm making notes right now of my parenting advice. When I was in, I think, high school, like 16, I think is when I got my first debit card. And I had to like really twist my dad's arm to get it, because at that time he was like, no, a debit card is going to just encourage you to spend more money. When you don't have the cash in your hands, you can't see it leaving, and so you don't, you're going to spend more. So have you seen, do kids tend to spend more, or is it working, but do you have any kind of trouble getting a certain generation of parents on board with this is how you educate your kids now?
You know, in the beginning we did. There were certain talk radio personal finance people who were like cash only, you know, and put your cards in the freezer and all that, and they were like, this is evil. And I think the rational thinking kind of came out that like, when your kid leaves the house, they're not going to be using cash. They're going to be using a card. So don't you want them to learn when they're 8 years old there, and they're only going to screw up over $5 than when they get their first job and screw up $500. And the most interesting thing, and we hear this all the time, and I see it in my own family, is the difference in kids who have been raised by us in the same house with the same rules, with the same everything. And I have a 16-year-old who spends every dollar he has down to the thing. And thank God the card cuts off and he can't spend his savings. And I have a 14-year-old who has saved up for computers and monitors and like phones and iPads, and he's like our saver. And so it's just really interesting to learn how different the kids can be and how they're in their relationship with money, even though we raised them the same in not just money, but lots of things.
Right.
And so I think it's just it feels so good to us that we are learning that now while he is still living at home, not while he's at school or, you know, in New York in his first job, like running out of money and not able to pay rent, you know, like it just, so I think that's when you ask about like, what's the right age? It's like as soon as possible, just so you can start learning these things together as a family.
When you talk to your kids about money, is it more like as a concept or as far as like what you give to them? Or do you ever like open up and share with them what you're investing or what you have or how you save? Or do you do that?
Usually it's about their money. The joke that I say is like, don't buy something if dad just bought it, because it's usually at the top. So, but no, they understand their own money, and that's what's so beautiful about it. Like the Roblox, or they like to invest in things that they know, and they really understand it when it's their money and it goes down. And by the way, if you haven't started using it, when you use it, you'll probably get what I got, which is the first time they see it go down, there's like a visceral reaction, like, Dad, why did you make me do this? This is awful. Like that's how it works. Like that's what we're learning here.
I learned really quick. I told my 3-year-old once she wanted a candy at the store. I told her, no, we don't have any money. And kept going. Well, then she starts telling everybody, my mommy doesn't have any money. That's why we can't have candy. I'm like, okay. Well, I'm just going to say no next time. So, but yeah, they definitely share.
It's so funny how sensitive this topic is for us and how we're not open with our kids about our own money. And so if it's not going to be us talking about how much we make or how much we save, like, how are we going to talk about it? Like, when are we going to talk about it? And I think that's the magic in this, is that, like, it now gives you a safe, comfortable place to talk about their money. Like, did you really need to sign up for the Minecraft server at $7 a month because that's recurring and you don't have $7 a month? Like, that's a safe place to talk about it and learn the lesson, where it doesn't have to be, let me tell you what dad did the other day when he made this really bad investment. So it's a lot safer and more comfortable for parents, for sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. What about, whenever you give your kids their cards, do you see a lot of overspending from like the start, or do you think that's something that's learned? Like you mentioned, you have one kid that spends a lot and one that saves a lot. Do you think that the card kind of helped show him to save, or when they first got it, did they tend to just kind of spend everything they had in there?
It goes back to every kid is different, and
right.
You're going to know pretty quickly which ones save and which ones spend. We have this feature called parent paid interest. So parents actually set the interest rate. We pay interest on the savings of the kids, so we pay 1 or 2 or 3%. But then parents set an interest rate also, and it calculates just like a regular savings account would, average daily balance, and then we pay it at the first of the month for the previous month. But it's the parent paying it. We calculate and we pull it from the parent. The average parent paid interest rate in Greenlight is 18% APY. And that's because, like, I pay my kids 12% because it's easy math. It's 1% a month. But some parents are doing 50% or 80 or even 100% because they want to double their savings every year. And when you see how quickly kids will start to understand compound interest, you're like, holy cow, that's a really like kind of difficult concept. Mm-hmm. But my son, I remember, said, so he had $100 and he got 1% of that. And he said, Dad, you're going to add that, and the next month you're going to do $101. And the next month you're going to add that and you're going to do it again. And I was like, yeah, that's how it works. He goes, can you move all my money into my savings? And that was like the moment where he became a saver, just because we had this little feature in the product that we thought maybe it encourages kids to spend, but it turns out to be this like life-changing thing, hopefully, for these kids.
That's really awesome. You hear a lot of talk about the financial literacy in schools and what's taught and what's not taught. Even if you do see it taught, it's hard to like grasp it without actually being able to do and see and be in the moment.
That's right. Yeah, there's nothing like seeing it.
Well, tell me a little bit about your education videos. You've mentioned that a couple times. You have like videos that kind of explain to the kids how it all works. Or?
Yeah, we call them nuggets, and they're intended to be little stories, little very short segments that are in the app. Both parents and kids, again, can see it and interact with these. And we just don't believe in PowerPoint slides and quizzes as a way to teach kids. Like we really need to like meet them where they are and what they're used to, and they're spending all day on Instagram and TikTok. So you kind of need to make things feel a little like that, but then also kind of partner it with, and now let's go set a savings goal. Now let's go do something that you just did. And we're still testing and experimenting a lot of really neat ways to do that. Never gamify. I want to be clear, like we're not gamifying personal finance where you go make trades or confetti, like the Robin Hood confetti issue. Like we're not trying to like gamify you down a certain path. We're trying to be sure like it's interesting enough to learn these concepts and just expose you.
And how do you tell, like how do you measure that if it's working, if they're learning?
A lot of it's really long term. And like we get asked this a lot, and we have a lot of several investors who only invest in like educational technology companies, and they've invested in Greenlight. So obviously they see us as an educational company. When we go look at outcomes measurement, the key outcomes we're going to be looking for are going to be over 10 or 20 or 30 years, right? It's like really how does a Greenlight kid versus a non-Greenlight kid, what's their trajectory in life? But the very short-term things that we're seeing are powerful. So like the example that I gave, a kid who sets a savings goal, just simply put in the goal, car, AirPods, whatever, saves on average 80% more than a kid who doesn't, like almost double the amount. Then they have a general savings bucket, so they still see savings in the app all the time. They can still put their allowance in there, they can still move money in, still get compound interest, parent paid interest. But the simple act of setting a goal and then doing it, that one's really powerful. So we have a lot of little things like that where we see if the parent or the child does this, then this happens. That's very different. And so trying to do that in the way that, opens these conversations and leads these concepts to the parents in a safe way, easy way, right?
Right.
Low friction.
And so do you have these same kinds of videos and stuff for the parents? Like if they don't have the financial literacy?
Totally. Yeah, so we launched Investing for Kids, and it was just a really neat interface where when you're looking at a quote, for example, the quote screen can be toggled between learn mode and not learn mode. I wish we had slides we could show it. But it's really neat. Like learn mode explains what a market cap is, explains the PE ratio in these purple boxes that are just really kind of written for a 14 or 15-year-old, very accessible. Parents loved it and they said, can I use it to invest? Like they actually were asking, can they use the Greenlight Kids? So we launched Parent Invest, which is now in the product, which is what will be connected to the family cash card where your cash back can be invested.
Oh, that's really cool. And then they have complete control, like you were saying, over what their kids invest in. And then what about, I think when we spoke before, you even talked about when they give their kids allowance, they can automatically set it to go towards savings if they want to force a certain amount of savings.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's again where it comes back to like the kids and which ones you trust. My kids, their allowance goes 80% into savings, 10% into giving, and 10% into spending. So they have to kind of ask for the money to be moved out of their savings, just because I've seen now how they will spend every penny.
Yes. So when you're looking at the growth that you've experienced over this past 7 years, what do you think has been like one of the major drivers of that growth? How did you get where you are now?
People we hired. Hands down, people we hired. Everyone says this all the time. You hear it all the time. Every investor told us. We knew it, but you just don't realize it. It's just all about hiring really, really, really smart people and understanding the right team for the right stage of the business. One thing that's been very interesting is how different the hires look now with 500 people than it did when you're 20 people. It's just different skill set, right? It's a different job. And learning that has been very eye-opening, but man, you just cannot overstate how important it is to hire the best people. And I think, the COVID impact of us now being hybrid, which is pretty much very remote, I think is awesome because we used to, you have to move to Atlanta to work for us. And that was not a hard pitch, by the way. I will shout out to Atlanta. We had some amazing people move from the Bay Area or New York or Austin or whatever to Atlanta. Now we don't have to do that. So now it's really like game time for the best talent in the world, and which we will continue to focus on because that is what it's all about. A little timing is good. Focusing on consumer problem, very important. That's the advice for entrepreneurs. We're always asked what do you think is the one thing that you did right that you can give advice to other entrepreneurs? And it's just laser focus on a problem in the market, not your solution, not all the cool inventions. Engineers tend to do this a lot, especially like I've invented this cool thing. It's all about the problem. And if you get the problem right, everything will usually work. Also, it helps to raise a shit ton of money.
Yeah, that helps. But in order to hire the right kind of people, like you're saying, you have to have the right kind of company and the right kind of culture to attract those people. So what is your company culture like?
Well, we are, it's very, let me see how I say this. It's very intense. It's not easy to work at Greenlight. At the same time, it's very fun. We joke around a lot, but I think we kind of have to. I think if we weren't joking around, we would all go crazy because we are going really fast. We have this really cool position that we're kind of the leader in our category by a lot, but it's hard to be in that because everyone's shooting at us every single day. Everyone is coming after us. And so we push really hard. It's all about shipping new product and obsessing over the customer and don't lose sight of that, obsess over the customer, and then keep hiring great people. And we think it will work. And the culture, we were really blessed that when we all went home in March of 2020, our IT and all our video conferencing gear worked so well. It was so easy for us. It was there was not we didn't lose one single minute trying to transition to working at home. But I think that fun culture kind of comes through even on Zoom or Google Meets. Like I think we're joking around just as much. 2 minutes, we're told, and that really made it really fun. And then we went home. We had 90 people. Now we're nearly 500 people, and we're still pretty much hybrid all the time.
That's really awesome. I mean, maintaining a culture over Zoom it's difficult for sure.
And we are still hiring. Go to greenlight.com, and we have lots of cool things like we did. So our first thing coming back from COVID where we got everybody together was we rented out Mercedes-Benz Stadium and played kickball, all hands kickball with 400 people. And it was the most fun I think any of us have ever had at an all hands event. So I highly recommend that for your companies is rent out the stadium and play kickball.
That's really awesome. You know, I've seen a study where it talked about millennials and Gen Z and younger workers, and there's this idea that like they don't want to work or they don't want to do that, and it's but what studies have shown is actually they don't mind getting in there, they don't mind working hard or digging in, they just want to believe in what they're doing.
Yeah. So the mission of Greenlight is the number one most important thing every day. It's important in recruiting, it's onboarding. We hear it in our team. Like our team holds us accountable when we go to the product meeting and say, hey, let's go launch XYZ. If our team doesn't see how that is on mission for us, we will hear about it. Like they are like, it's like a lot of friction sometimes. So we have to really be sure that we're aligned on that, and it is very important. By the way, I will also say having these interns yesterday for lunch, they were so grateful to be able to come work in the office. I think even it was eye-opening for me to see how thankful they were to have the office. So I think for all of us, we should remember about the people just starting out in their careers. And even though we can work just fine at home in the Zoom basement, I think us getting back in person for these younger professionals is really important.
That's really great advice, especially when they're starting out. What about, do you have any last advice, anything that you want to share that's helped you in your career that
No, I think again, it's if you're starting a company, focus on a problem, you'll get it right. If you're not starting a company or you want to one day, I think the best advice is go do it on somebody else's dime. Like come work at Greenlight and see all the stuff we screw up before you go do it yourself. That's the one advice I wish I had taken when I was in school. But yeah, absolutely, and definitely go sign up for Greenlight, greenlight.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.